Eyes up, Guardians, and welcome to Shared Screen's Lightfall review. Yes, exactly. Eyes up. Welcome to Shared Screen's Lightfall review. I am Brother Grimbo, and I'm joined today by Alec Bobko and our special guest, Billy the Door. We're going to give, just a heads up, we're going to give some very, very, very spoiler-free light impressions at the top, and then after about like 5 minutes or so, it'll be very quick, non-spoilers, and then we'll get into all of it, from the raid to the campaign to just general quality of life improvements and how we feel about the expansion as a whole. So let's start with Alec. First of all, hello, how are you? What are your spoiler-free thoughts on Lightfall so far?
I'm doing great today. Lightfall, I'm actually was talking to Chris last night, and it's like I'm just saying I'm glad I'm not the lead reviewer on this one to have to like put a score to this, just because they made some questionable choices, or I should say Bungie made some questionable choices during the campaign. But man, after finishing that and like just kind of letting you loose like they normally do, it's been some of the most fun I've had in Destiny. So it's I'm so glad I don't have to put a score to this because I would be having such a hard time deciding like what to do because it's I don't say polar opposites, but it's just it outweighs each other, you know.
It is a mixed bag. Yeah, I agree.
So
Billy, what are your thoughts? How are you? Thank you for joining us. And then what are your thoughts on Lightfall, just spoiler-free so far?
Yeah, I'm doing well. A nice, bright, very cold Sunday.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
but yeah, you know, you're gonna see like a lot of stuff online about like how the story was like weird or whatever. And while that is true, I think that a lot of like the campaign and actual gameplay is super fun. I think the addition of loadouts is awesome, and some of the tweaks that they made to like the leveling and all that. Great stuff there. I do still think that they need a bit of work on the like new player experience, and
yeah.
hopefully over the next couple seasons they rectify that. But overall, like I've been having a good time. Um, I'd say like the campaign itself, um, probably not as good as Witch Queen was, but that's the thing. You can go back and still play that. So yeah, I guess those are the overall spoiler free thoughts.
Yeah, I am very much I agree with both of you in terms of like there is a lot of good, there is some questionable choices made in this expansion. I am largely of two minds because there is the idea that you pay for like the expansion, and what that comes with is the campaign and then Strand and the new environment of Neomuna. Um, I feel like Neomuna, I honestly still don't know how I feel about it. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the story, I know that I'm not a fan of of the campaign, and we can get into that a bit later. Um, but Strand has been the thing that surprised me the most. I saw the grappling hook in the trailer and was like, "Oh, sweet, Destiny's doing the whole Titanfall thing," and then played with it in the campaign, and it felt a little like restrictive. The way that we can. Do we want to get into spoilers? Are there any other spoiler-free thoughts?
Raid good. Raid's
I
good.
will I
Really
will
good.
also say Strand is very fun,
Yes.
and that like there is a grappling hook, but there is more than just the grappling hook,
Yes.
Oh yeah.
which is awesome. Strand, a lot of fun.
Yeah. So I guess going into the spoiler part of the campaign structure, when they introduce Strand in the campaign, it slowly takes over the narrative, which I don't have a problem with in theory, but for this campaign, like for this expansion for Lightfall, like this is the penultimate chapter of the or the penultimate expansion of the Light and Dark saga. I don't remember how their
Mm-hmm.
PR terms work. It just felt like it was a bit of a distraction in the campaign, and every time I had it, I was like, "This is cool," and then they take it away from you and make you like exhausted.
See, I was kind of the opposite because I went into Lightfall having, because I play Titan. So, with Arc 3.0, Titan grenade build was just one of the best builds I've ever played in Destiny for PvE, I should say.
Mhm.
And it's like, hey, let's put the grapple in the grenade slot. So like this entire thing, you have your builds, centered around. You're kind of making yourself like you can't play it.
Yeah, and any exotic that you have going, or any exotic armor that you have going into the campaign that is not strand based, because obviously, how would we have strand based exotics before the campaign? Um, like you don't. I was running a controverse build, like a void grenade build, and it was completely useless once I was using strand. But I was like mostly distracted because of the grapple. But as soon as it was taken away, I was like, okay, well, I feel like I could have gone through that encounter a lot faster with what I was already running.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Like they needed to teach us somehow if
Like
the campaign was going to be a strand campaign.
well but I think like I understand that they needed to take away something, like to kind of put it in one of the ability slots. Because otherwise it would have to put like something completely new into the game. But taking away your grenade or taking away your melee, like which a lot of builds are centered around one of those two abilities.
Yeah.
Like you're essentially making 50% of builds just useless.
Yeah. Billy,
Not quite 50%, but yeah.
I mean, a lot of grenade builds. The grenades were very strong.
Basically, all grenade builds.
Yeah, I remember.
Unless you're running armamentarium.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah. No, I remember them mentioning in like the TWAB that because in Beyond Light, everybody thought that the way they introduced the stasis was like a little too slow, and I think a lot of my friends were like, oh yeah, they're just gonna like unlock it and like we'll have it for the whole campaign, and then at the end we'll have like a thing. So I think there were they said it was better than Beyond Light and getting stasis, which it was, but I still think that if we could like get introduced to some more of the elements earlier on, like you just had the grappling hook for the whole time. Like they didn't introduce the threadling grenade, which like they totally could have, and like had some maybe mechanics around that, or the suspend, which they could have had mechanics around that too. So I think like it was fun. I think like a grappling hook is obviously like the coolest thing, but I don't think the campaign was like was effective in introducing like builds and stuff. And they want us to keep doing builds. They want us to like do more like monochromatic builds with a lot of like the mods and that they've introduced.
Yeah. So how do you feel as someone that's played Destiny for a while? The new mod system is kind of a giant overhaul. Like you mentioned that they streamlined a lot of how you build craft in Destiny. How do you feel about that as a veteran player?
I think it's great that there's like a lot fewer mods to like go through. I always hated like, okay, I'm gonna switch from a linear fusion rifle to a rocket launcher. I gotta like switch all my armor mods. So I did like that, and I think they did take away some of like the potency with like having charge with light and like some of the other mods like on top of each other and like kind of combining them. But I think simplifying it all, because they were like all systems that they added on top of each other, and they kind of just took them all and said like, all right, we're just gonna smoosh them into one, and I really like it.
Yeah, like there is definitely like one of my like the Aegis Scepter stasis shard, and like having the overshield and then constantly charging your super and then dumping that into your weapon, like that's kind of over now.
Yeah,
but I can mimic it a little bit. Like for everything that they've taken away, the replacement might not be as effective, but it takes like way less time to put together, which I appreciate.
But now, like everybody's just obsessed with just basically spawning orbs of power, because that just everybody's trying to get the armor charges.
Yeah.
So.
And I know that they introduced the new like there are void breaches, fire sprites, ionic traces. They have like elemental wells kind of live on in some way. But since since Lightfall has come out, I've never built into spawning those and generating those myself.
Yeah, they're like hard to spawn. Or they're very specific to spawn.
Yeah, and I feel like now it's just put on a mod or two, and whatever you're running, you can make it work for the most part. Which I appreciate. But if you want to get super specific, you can, and like you feel the benefits of having extra armor charge and one of the grenade mods for more energy recovery. And also, speaking of the like grenade mods and stuff like that, the changes to the artifact with permanent
Yeah.
perk unlocks. How do we feel about that change?
Oh, I love it. Like that was always one of the more frustrating things of having to swap out, the mods for whatever activity you're trying to do. So having that just be passive, and then you just basically gotta switch out your weapons to whatever uh, fits that mod or whatever fits that champion that you're trying to defeat. I thought that was a great choice.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I think it's better. I wish, see, and this is where we get nitpicky because they improve it and then more problems come up. But like it would be nice if like your loadouts could switch those mods around. But I think it's definitely a vast improvement,
Oh yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
the fact that I
And like
have
I know that
to.
would be like hard and like making games is hard and all that, but and it's a much better system now.
Just a quality of life improvement.
Of course,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah, I feel like so much of what they've like improved, it has been an improvement, but there are just little caveats where I'm like, why couldn't we take it the extra step further? And
Mhm.
I'm not a game developer. I have no idea how hard it is to do
Like
any of
Yep.
this stuff, but
like with loadouts, let
with
us name our own loadouts
exactly,
instead of like what
exactly,
10 pre-selected.
yeah,
Or at
and
least let me pick from a menu the icons so I'm not like scrolling and I'm like, nope, that was solar. Okay, go scroll back through.
yeah,
Um,
and
Mhm.
sometimes they like bug out for me at least, where I will like click something and it'll say, okay, it's this, and I'm like, okay, cool. I move my cursor a little bit and it says, no, 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 it's actually this, and I'm like, okay, well, which is it? Like, I don't know what color I'm actually selecting sometimes. Um, and it is apparently easier to do it in the Destiny companion app, for the record, from what I've heard.
Gotcha.
I'm
Um,
gonna have to
I
switch them all around then.
I do wish that they weren't all locked behind guardian ranks.
yep,
Oh, another good
yeah,
segue.
that is a great segue. How do we feel about the new progression system? Which I want to start with saying I love it in theory.
Yes.
I love it so
When
much in theory. It has not
90% of the
proven.
players are guardian rank 6 when
And
Lightfall started.
like that, so when I heard they were adding this to this, like having a tracker for, hey, here's in theory, if you do well in a raid, if you do well somewhere else, like, and I guess this is more the commendations, but like the idea that
Mhm.
your legacy is being tracked throughout the game in a visible way outside of triumphs. I thought that was really cool. As an onboarding thing, I think that's a great idea. In practice, like you said, we start the game and everyone is ranked 6. I'm like, what has happened? I have been playing since the alpha, like not the alpha, the beta. Like,
Mhm.
what is going on? Like, I feel slighted. Maybe that's just
Yeah.
me being selfish, but um,
Yeah, and they reset every season now, so we're gonna be rank 6 in a couple months.
So I'm just
beautiful.
going to be perpetually rank 6 apparently.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but like you said, they
So
did lock the loadouts behind, or the additional loadouts
It's
behind.
like rank 6 you can only have I think 6 loadouts.
Well, you have to. There are challenges within each of the little
I think you
nodes,
have
like
to solo
categories.
some lost sectors,
Yeah,
and that specifically will unlock 4 more.
Oh, gotcha.
and there are
Yeah.
other. At least in, I assume it was a bug at this point, but there was one challenge that said you get more mods after you complete a certain something, and I did that
Okay.
and redeemed it, and I did not notice a difference in my mod selection. So maybe they'll add something like that in the future. Who knows? But
Yeah.
or maybe I just didn't notice the additional mods. But I
I
did
think.
like
Yeah.
try to figure out like, okay, which ones are new, and I couldn't
Did
see
I
any
get
difference.
something new? Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. That was another thing. And also with like the commendation system, I think if you tie rewards to something in Destiny 2, the Destiny 2 players are just gonna do whatever it is to get that reward with like no regard
Hmm.
to the system at all.
Yeah,
So, I think commendations are like a good thing to add. But I think tying rewards to them kind of just ruins the whole system
Defeats the
because
purpose. Yeah.
now it's like we did the raid the other day, and then everybody was like, "Make sure to do your commendations, or else we're not going to be optimal." And it's like that's because that's what Destiny
Hmm.
players are, right?
yeah,
That's they just want to be optimal. So if you tie rewards to something, it's gonna yeah yeah.
I also feel like they have too many categories for how little time we actually have to like. Because at the end of I guess playing trials this weekend.
Mhm.
At the end of a match, I want to commend people, like you said, because I know that that's an efficient way to progress through the game. Some people are just trying to progress through trials, so they will
Yeah.
leave the game immediately after, and I can't commend them. And then I feel like, oh well, you've hurt my chances of progression now. Like I feel again, I'm just a selfish player, I guess, but like
Mm-hmm.
that you run into that where like there's a folding ideas video about like why it's rude to be bad at Minecraft or not Minecraft at
Ooh,
Warcraft,
Warcraft, yeah, good video.
and it's essentially just like there are so many things that you have to know to like streamline an experience, and like if you don't know these things, then you can come off as rude to people that are very much into this subculture.
Mhm.
So now it's like the commendations was supposed to be a very nice like patting each other on the back at the end of something, and now for me as a sweaty person, it's like, okay, you're not going to commend me. Like I just went like I went crazy for this team, and now you're not going to commend me. Like
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
dropping rewards behind it.
you're
Yeah,
not gonna
doesn't make
increase
sense.
my score so I can get like because I think you get like a
You get powerful
powerful
rewards.
or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like 20 per week. I want to say you got to get.
I
Hmm.
think so. I don't know. It's such a not. I don't know, it's the passive income that the tech bros always talk about. It's like you don't even have to think about it. You just do stuff and you get paid for it.
Yeah.
It's just not significant enough for me to like really bank into it. But I don't know. So getting to more hopefully positive territory, I just want to have a deeper dive into Strand for a bit. What are your favorite builds so far? What are the things that have surprised you about Strand? And I mean, like more just the subclass and less its introduction through the story.
Mm-hmm.
Like on
Um,
Neomuna, off of Neomuna, in PvP and PvE.
I can't really speak to PvP just because I'm more of a PvE player.
Hmm.
Um, but man, I saw a build or a video for a Titan build where it's just based off of the new exotic legs. I can't remember what they're called off the top of my head, but so one of the fragments lets basically when you put up your rally or put up a barricade. I think it works as tower, but I've only used rally just because it had a shorter cooldown. It lets out this lash of energy, of strand energy that suspends enemies.
Hmm.
Well, this exotic, instead of just the single one right from the middle, it sends out 3. And basically, this entire build is just centered around suspending enemies because it just locks them in place. Like, basically, it does it with champions, does it with like mini bosses sometimes. Like, pretty much everything except for like final bosses. You can just suspend and they just sit there. And it is so much fun just being able to get crit hits on or shooting their crit spot. They can't do anything. And then there's, I believe, it was an aspect that does the lash. It's fragment that does where if you defeat enemies that are suspended, it gives you woven mail. So it's basically like my Titan build is just centered around suspending things, killing them, and getting woven mail.
Yeah.
And
Suspend is like it's broken.
yeah,
Like
I was gonna say.
they're gonna do something to it, right? I hope not,
I mean,
because like it handles every champion, which is
Yeah,
great, which is awesome.
like as long as you get to the barrier champion before they actually put their barrier up and suspend them,
Mhm.
it literally can handle every champion.
Yeah, and it stuns on stops intrinsically, and then
Mm-hmm.
it prevents the anti barriers and the overloads from regenerating, which is real great.
and it's
Yeah,
just so.
I was doing the Dado suspend warlock necrotic
Mhm.
grips thing, and like that's really fun. I also had like a get as many threadlings as I can build. That was pretty fun, and we're gonna get more stuff soon, so it'll be fun to see what I think we're gonna get another aspect like in a season or two.
I
So it'll be fun
think
to see
yeah,
what they add.
yeah. You mentioned the threadlings. I remember watching the Vidoc, I guess, or one of the blog posts where they were discussing the player fantasy for each of the classes, and they got to the warlock, and they're like the broodweaver is like and it had a different name at first. I can't remember what it was, but the Broodweaver is all about like spawning the threadlings, and they're these little guys, and I'm like, okay, well, I know that we have like the Void Soul, the Arc Soul now, or Arc Soul and then the Void Soul. So is the Warlock class just like the Summoner class? And then a few seconds later, they're like, this is our like Summoner class, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And it really does feel like that. You can get like a total of 8 out at a time, I think, where you consume your grenade for 5, and then you use your rift and spawn 3 more, and then all of them
Yeah.
release. I think it was the same Dado video where he was saying like these builds make the game boring because you just do a few, like you absorb a grenade and then you do like one more thing and then the room is cleared. Like it
The
is
room is
so
dead.
And then,
Yeah.
like, oh, I remember you were telling me just throw in the Striga. And it's
Yeah,
like everything just explodes poison.
like there are so many, and as a warlock specifically, like, and as you mentioned as a titan, like woven mail, like I started dabbling in woven mail. That is very effective. Like I
Oh, yeah.
started relying less on high resilience, just knowing like if I can spawn an orb, I can get that damage resist going.
Mm-hmm.
And with the armor mod system, you're spawning orbs.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, because, yeah, with going back to the artifact, there's a mod on that where just getting an orb of power gives you volatile rounds, which is insane if you have a void weapon. So, like, last night, we were running the raid, and I just had my funnel web in my energy weapon slot. I was just destroying enemies, just adds, like, just because that has such a high rate of fire.
Mm.
You mix that with volatile rounds, just everything's exploding.
They explode. It's very good.
I feel like Bungie is doing a not subtle job of like pointing us into the direction of, because in the past it's been like, hey, here's some, like, this is going to be the grenade launcher season, this is going to be this season.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hey, we're going to let you make a few builds and then you're just going to stick with that for the most part, because I've not really felt any reason to stray, like even when it comes to the like the new surge and like overcharge systems. Like I am so heavily incentivized to stick with the newest weapons, put on the artifact mod that like boosts the damage and the like whatever the origin trait is for the new weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Like sticking with that. If it's a machine gun overcharge or a machine gun surge, I know machine gun and strand surge, use the new strand machine gun, and then you can just stack and stack and stack and stack all of that stuff. And it feels very easy to see all of that on screen too. Like Destiny's always had great UI in my opinion, so I feel like they continue to do that. Also, the soundtrack for Lightfall, kind of incredible, I think. Like it might be my favorite out of all of them.
Like there's a mission I got stuck on. Is the one where kind of essentially what people have been calling the training montage mission, where you're in the simulation almost, or in the Vex network. And let me tell you, I had to listen to that track so many times, and it never got old how hyped that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, they said that they wanted an 80s action movie vibe, and they definitely...
Oh,
like, it definitely felt like an 80s action movie, for better and for worse. How do we feel about Neomuna as a location? Because it is very befitting of the soundtrack, like all the synth and the music sounds neon almost.
Yeah, I mean, you know, they talked a lot about in the Vidoc and all that about how we haven't really visited like a pristine, cool like location. Like, you know, Dreaming City's cool, but it's like cursed or whatever. And, like this is like a nice like pristine city, so that was definitely a nice change of pace. And like, you know, neon's cool, obviously. I think like each of the locations themselves. I did have fun like exploring Neomuna, and like after the raid they had those like spike things, collectibles that you had to go around.
Oh yeah.
I even went back and I was like, this is still fun, like poking around and looking for stuff, and like I found some secrets. So yeah, I tweeted the other day, I love collectibles. Just put me in a map, let me collect things, and I'm a happy guy. And you know, they did that for me, which I am.
Although one of my big honestly issues, this is more of a joke, but I wish when you're that little like tower that you are at with
Yeah.
Nimbus. I wish you could just ride your Sparrow off of that instead of
Yes.
because
Like,
I don't know how many
understand.
times I've died just because I forget that. Oh, the Sparrow will explode upon hitting the ground.
Physics,
like,
baby.
Who cares? That's so fun. Like, just let it
Exactly.
explode. I don't know. I know
Let
that
me
they want
survive
you
that
to
fall.
do that. Yeah, just on Neomuna, there's no fall damage. Like,
Yep.
Or just
but you,
that specifically. I just want that. I want to be able to ride my Sparrow
Just
off of
in
that
that
tower.
area. Just in that
Exactly.
cone.
yeah. I feel like I feel like every time we bring up something like positive, there's just like a little like, but then why? Like, it's so hard to judge the expansion because at this point, like, when I play Destiny 2 moment to moment right now, I feel like I'm having a better time than I ever have with Destiny. And I feel like that's kind of the state of the game. Like every season they do something to streamline it just a little bit more and like, hey, there's this one thing you don't like. We're gonna iron that out a little bit. Hey, like Crucible, we know that you need new maps. Oh well. Like it's like it's good for pretty much everyone, but like the dedicated like the nitpickers like us, like we see a lot more of the flaws. So kind
And
of
then there's
going,
Gambit.
I don't even consider Gambit
I know.
part of the game at this point. I've been on the record. I think they should just make it like a MOBA like experience if they're really trying to do a PvPvE. Like I don't know how it would work, but this is not it. Um, but going into the campaign specifically, I want to nitpick. Just go ahead.
So something that I heard that I kind of thought that was interesting was with all the critiques that this campaign had been having, and I don't know if this is true or not, but supposedly there was I mean, they're kind of what I've heard is that Lightfall is kind of almost like a filler piece so that they would have more time to work on the final shape, since that's kind of like the epic conclusion to this saga. So, not saying that they put this out quick, but this is, that might be the reason why it's kind of a bit underdeveloped. So that way they would have more time to flesh things out in final shape.
Yeah, like and someone said that, I've heard that as well. I've heard it's due to the pandemic, being the pandemic that shut down the world for a bit.
Yep.
I I'm sympathetic to that. And I know that like the story team is in like Witch Queen was fantastic. I think that's the biggest.
Oh yeah.
I think that's why people are so harsh on this. Like if it was not positioned where it was, like if this came out right before Witch Queen, everyone would lose their mind. Like especially after like you get Stasis, you get Beyond Light, that was kind of like and you get this, and you're like, okay, well at least this is fun. Like at least the story is not like if it wasn't right now, if it wasn't the Infinity War, then I would be like, oh, this is fun. I'd be down for a training montage. I would be down to mess around with Nimbus and watch Warlock get crushed. Like I'm down, but like I don't know. What were you gonna
Something
say?
that I thought that was also interesting was that in that video I had watched where they kind of pointed that out, they had also mentioned that like in Destiny 1, like one of the smaller expansions, I think it was the Iron Lords expansion, that was like a cheaper expansion because it was kind of like a filler piece. Whereas this was still up at a $50 expansion.
Yeah, and like I don't know how I feel, but I guess this is just an issue with like tying a subclass to an expansion. Because I'm like, if they decoupled the campaign from Strand, like I don't even know how you would do that because Strand is so based on Neomuna as a location. So you just have access to Neomuna, the public events, the weapons, but not the campaign. Because if that's the case, why would you put time into the? I don't know. Like it just kind of devalues the campaign by comparison.
Yeah.
Well, and I also think that combining like tying a subclass to an expansion, like it disincentivizes Bungie from like further developing it down the road because like Stasis, last year with Witch Queen we got all the 3.0s. And then it's like are they going to put money into like updating and doing all this stuff for Stasis when it's required that you have like two expansions ago? You have to have Beyond Light. So
Like, they
that's
kind of
another problem that they're gonna run into.
pigeonhole themselves. That they can't basically Beyond Light and Lightfall, they can't vault because those they have those new classes.
Well, they're not
or
going to vault
elements.
anything else other than the seasonal
Gotcha.
stuff. Yeah.
Which,
Okay.
to your
Good.
point, though, further devalues Beyond Light because the more time goes on, the less valuable Beyond Light becomes. So yeah, they're really. I didn't even think about that. Like, there really is no reason for them to go back and refresh stasis this far out. Yeah, that's
Unless they make it
unfortunate.
free for everybody somehow, but then like it's so tied in with Beyond Light, like the progression with that.
Mhm.
So it's like, do they
Yeah.
make Beyond Light free? I don't know if they do that. So
Yeah, I mean, maybe they do the thing where they give it like a free weekend or something, or like a free 3 months, like they did with Forsaken.
I mean, they
Yeah.
just did. If you had PS Plus, they just did give Beyond Light away on that. If you had the PS Plus Essential.
Yeah, put it on Game Pass.
So that's how they got me the first time.
It's not going on Game Pass. No way.
Yeah, I would like
It
them
did.
to.
No, it
It
did
was.
because that's how
past
because that's how I got. That's how I got. Or that's why I'm stuck on the PC Game Pass app. Is because that's how I started playing or got back into Destiny. Too before Witch Queen was that I had all the expansions. I think it was basically everything up to Witch Queen. So then I bought Witch Queen on there, and now it's just like I'm just stuck on that platform because that's where I have all the expansions.
Yeah, whenever I think about booting up Destiny on the Xbox, I'm like, I don't want to have to download, like, buy anything again. Like,
Oh yeah. Because the other thing too,
what can you do?
the expansions, like even though I bought them on Game Pass or on PC Xbox app, they're not transferable to the console. They're exclusively Xbox PC.
Yeah, I just don't understand. There are so many little baffling things where the more you think about it, you're like, why is this the way it is?
Yeah.
And then I'm not a game developer, and then you just go back and forth.
Exactly.
Just like, I'm upset by this thing, but I need to.
So we're just Destiny fans.
We're Destiny fans. Yeah.
Yeah, there's two things Destiny fans love. One is min-maxing and taking advantage of the systems, as we discussed before. And two is Destiny players love complaining about Destiny.
Yeah. I think in terms of the story being filler, just going back to that point.
Yep.
Again, I feel like it's just the timing of it all. Like, I would have been so okay with them because the seasonal story content is still fantastic. Like, the seasonal stuff is still great. If they had announced, like, hey, we're gonna add some, like, or just said, like, yo, this is filler. Like, I feel like they still built it up as, hey, this is, everything, it's going down. Like, the opening cutscene is essentially like, hey, the apocalypse is starting now. Like, it's.
Yep.
It felt like such a, like, someone pushes the button for the nuclear bomb, and then it's like, meanwhile on Tatooine, and you're like, what's happened? Why are we here? And then obviously the meme that has or the veil.
Yeah.
I understand that we will get more context, and I understand that, like, in a year, but like, or next season is supposed to be more like getting into the nature of the veil and all of that, but like, as a campaign, and it's especially after Witch Queen, like, I keep going back to Witch Queen like, as the example, because it was so recent, and it's the same people, like, it's the same team, right? Like, I don't know. I'm still hopeful for the final shape, but any final thoughts on the campaign before we move into the raid?
Yeah, like I had mentioned earlier, just was not a fan of them just taking away a grenade slot like that just for grapple. Like, yeah, it made for some fun maneuverability, but as somebody who's like I'm into Destiny, but I'm not like quite as in probably as you guys are. Like, I was just getting frustrated more and more playing the legendary campaign, just because it's like if I had my grenade, I would just could get through this so much quicker. So instead, like that one training montage mission, I legitimately had to stop and create like essentially a whole like melee build. just because I just was not getting anywhere
Yeah.
with that build I was currently on. So it's
Yeah.
just story was just all right, but it was just more frustrating than anything.
Yeah, Billy.
I mean, I like the gameplay of the campaign. I really loved. I loved that like each mission had its own like identity. We got like the tank mission and the go into the Callus ship
Yeah.
mission, and
Mhm.
the training montage mission was like like each mission was like memorable and identifiable. Um, but I will say, I think a lot of people already think that the story of Destiny is like weird and confusing, and when you have this like not straightforward story, it's gonna like push people away. Like, do I think it's the end of the world? Absolutely not. I think a lot of people are taking it out of proportion, but I do think for newer players, like coming in and being like, "What is all this?" Like, we're getting introduced to so many new things. I think kind of centering what the conflict is, what the goals of the bad guy are, would have made it land a lot better.
Yeah, and I've also heard that argument that it's bad for new players, and because it's bad for new players, it's ultimately bad for the future of Destiny, and Lightfall is single-handedly going to kill this game. And like,
Yeah.
whenever I tell someone, hey, I think you should try out Destiny 2, like, I think you should play this game, it is never like the Witch Queen is the Witch Queen and Forsaken are kind of like exceptions to the general rule of like, yeah, no one really cares about the story in Destiny. Like I care about the lore in Destiny. Like I care
Mhm.
about the characters in Destiny. I care about like I love watching My Name Is Byth more than I love it's like sitting through the random characters that may or may not like make sense to me at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way that they deliver their storytelling is interesting when you know the lore. So I feel like if you're like it's a story based gamer, like no, Destiny is not and kind of never has been for you. If I'm being honest, like
The gameplay.
Yeah.
it's the gameplay. It's the I shoot thing go, and that sounds and
Mm-hmm.
feels good. Like
And the
Yep.
shooting feels good because it's Bungie, the people behind the first 3 Halo games.
yeah, like
Yeah.
the campaign is a disappointment, but it does not ruin the
Exactly.
package. Like if you saw the trailer, if the average non-Destiny gamer watched the Lightfall trailer, I feel like they would go, I don't know what the hell is happening with Megamind, but if I can be Spider-Man, I'll play it. And to that end, like unfortunately they have to sit through the Megamind subplot, but like once they do, then they can be Spider-Man. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and like I love Destiny very much. I have since the beginning. So like I am biased. I am more forgiving, but I was also extra disappointed immediately after. Like the
Mm-hmm.
pain I felt after finishing Lightfall and being like, was that bad?
Although,
Like that was
mm-hmm.
bad. That was really bad. Like I waited until the lore people, like the lore daddies, Byf
Mm-hmm.
and Mylan, had something. And Byf's video is very like he was so upset that he apologized the next video for how upset he was. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, so if they don't know what's going on, then I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Alec, what were you about to say?
I was just gonna say, like, because I normally I don't play the legendary campaign, but because I knew I was gonna be doing the raid for this review, I powered through it and I found the cheese for the final boss of Callus, where you just get under the stairs. It's like him or the tormentors can't hit you,
Oh, that's
and
great.
that made that final fight, like, it took a while. Don't get me wrong, but it made that final fight so easy. Like I did it in one go, just cheesed the hell out of it and got through that. Got my exotic legs and got my set of 1770 and was on my way to getting raid ready.
Alec,
So
again, you're a true Destiny player. You did the first thing that we talked about,
Oh yeah.
taking advantage of min maxing and loopholes.
Well, the funny thing was, I saw a video to cheese it where you're supposed to like go up above like the whole orb thing, but then literally like before I got to that mission, I happened to be on YouTube and I saw, hey, here's an even easier cheese.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we love
It's
our
like, hey, if you have
trees.
Striga, just do this, go here, shoot them, and that'll draw them over to this place, and then just boom, you're
There's
safe.
something Destiny players will find. It's a cheese.
Yeah. And before we move on into the raid, you did mention the legendary campaign and the difficulty. I know that Bungie has done a lot to change the feel in the game in terms of how hard basic enemies hit and what we can do about it. So how do we feel? Like, I feel like the general sentiment is that the game got harder. Do we agree with that? First of all, and if we agree or disagree, like, is that a good thing, a bad thing? Like, where do we feel like the state of difficulty is right now?
Like, I think it's difficulty overall for Destiny 2. I definitely has noticed it going up because like you can't just like stop in the middle of somewhere and just let me change this, let me change that real quick. Because I don't know how many times I did that just in Neo Muna and then just see myself come back and I'm dead.
Yeah.
But in regards to the legendary campaign, I can definitely say like because it was way harder for Witch Queen. The few times I remember jumping into I think Billy's and Reaper's games trying to help them progress. Then Lightfall, I was able to do most of those missions by myself. Like I know you guys hopped in and helped me for a couple missions, but I got through a majority of that campaign on my own. So I mean that's anything to go for. I think I got through maybe 2, maybe 3 missions of Witch Queen.
Mm-hmm.
So on
Yeah,
legendary.
I think it's So I think like a big controversy a couple weeks ago was like them making the Vanguard playlist like year 5 under, and I think that's a good change because like usually when I do Vanguard strikes, I'm just like turning off my brain
Yeah.
and
Mm-hmm.
like it doesn't even feel like I'm playing a video game. It's so easy. So it's nice that they did add that challenge, and then also you can do nightfalls to get that like pinnacle instead
Yeah.
of doing the other playlist. So if you want that extra challenge, even more challenge, you could just like do that and like get your pinnacle faster. And there's a couple other changes that they're making with like master raids, and so it'll be interesting to see about that. And then I guess if we're going to be talking about difficulty and we're going to go into the raid now,
Yes. What are your
that
thoughts,
Oh,
that's
Mister?
yeah.
Mister, I'm gonna. Oh, sorry, Al. Go ahead.
real quick, one before we get into the raid, the other big change to I would say Vanguard and Strike specifically is that they changed them to the scoring too. Like before,
Yeah.
they used to just be able like if you're just grinding regular strikes, it's just get to the end, beat the boss, rinse, repeat. Whereas
Yeah.
now you're actually incentivized to get better score, to get better loot.
Other good change.
Yeah.
Better
I,
score, better, more Vanguard rank.
I feel like the difficulty changes and I guess the score changes are just making us more aware. Like, not necessarily, like we mentioned, builds that are extremely broken right now.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also, with the artifact being not permanent, like, there is that extra level of, like, right nowness to it. Like, I doubt that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think the Striga Tangle build will still be good next season. I don't think it'll be nearly as good as it will next season, or as it. I don't think it will be nearly as good next season.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But like with the difficulty, it makes you more aware of like, okay, if I'm not running a broken build, then I need to know that I need to put a little bit of extra effort into killing something. I need to know that they can hit me a little bit
Yep.
harder. I've started caring a lot more about my resistance mods this season, um, and yeah, I like the changes, the difficulty changes in general. So difficulty, moving into the raid. What are our thoughts just on the difficulty of the raid, and then we'll go into like the more experiential thoughts.
I
Okay.
mean,
So
as
for
somebody,
oh sorry,
I was just gonna say
you go.
I only ran the raid once, and for me, it honestly like the encounters didn't necessarily feel that challenging. I think it was more just the mechanics of it all that was the challenging portion. Because like you guys were both there last night when we ran the raid. Um, it just was a lot of ad clear, and it's like as long as you just don't die, and I mean, yeah, just make things just it didn't really. Not that it wasn't like easy, but it wasn't like I'm hitting my head, banging my head against the wall, trying to kill everything or kill these certain things. Like It's like, oh hey, all these enemies that I've been killing throughout the campaign and throughout grinding, just
Yeah, as long as they're
So
like of light level. Go ahead,
I
buddy.
know you've done King's Fall, Alec, and that is like a more mechanically intense raid. Do you have like a preference between the two?
I think the Root of Nightmares, right? I enjoyed that one a lot more. I think maybe because I know it took us a couple hours, two and a half hours last night. I think that was partially because of some bugs or glitches that we had to redo a couple things, but I don't know, it just felt like it was a bit more condensed. Maybe it was just more because you're actually going in, kind of staying in the same area. I don't know.
It was breezier.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
So
were your thoughts?
I did the contest mode. We started the second day, so it wasn't day one, but I did do the contest mode, and like I was very shocked at how like easy it was, and like how little I died. Um, which I know a lot of people, said, and there were a lot more completions of it. Um, a lot of people are saying that it's due to the difficulty, but like I had a really good time. It took 12 hours, and a lot of that time was spent like figuring out the mechanics, and I really enjoyed that part, like trying to piece the little puzzles together and like figure out like, oh, what do these planets do, what these lines do. So that was fun to figure out. And I kind of appreciated that it wasn't just like, okay, you have to have like the correct build and you have to have like this specific build to maximize your damage. I like that it was more focused on like the actual mechanics instead of like damage checks.
Yeah, I mean, when my group did the day 2 contest mode, we thought we had the mechanics down. Like after we got stuck at the planet's encounter, and we were just so confused. Like, do we have to shoot the little thing above his head? Like, do we have to do like people were convinced that there's something that had to do with like shooting the thing on top of his head, and we're like, I don't know, but like no one's doing damage, so we don't know what to like how to progress with this. But knowing everything now, like I will say that it sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is. Like I remember you walking me through one of the main encounters. I can't remember exactly which one, and I was like in my head like, oh my god, I'm gonna mess this up. I'm gonna mess it up. And then you just
Oh,
like
the
walk me
second one, I
through.
think.
Yeah, the second.
Where
I
you're
think it's
going
just
to the
like
level.
yeah, it's just connecting the dots essentially.
Yeah.
And it's very easy to see which dot you need to connect. It's just knowing like the
Until it isn't.
communication of when. Yeah, like I feel like the hardest part of this raid is getting the proper verbiage down so that you can communicate properly. Like communication is the biggest mechanic of this raid.
Yeah.
And I
Unless you're like us, where there's times where it's like you had the buff, but the little orb didn't spawn, so you had to
yeah
go back and get the buff. And it's like,
yeah bugs
so
and
it's like I'm
also
like
big
I remember I was
mechanics.
going up and down in that second encounter, and like I'm like, where the heck is this? I'm not seeing where I'm supposed to go.
And I'm like double checking constantly. Like, do I actually have the buff? Like, did I take it or did I shoot it and accidentally stepped out of it? I don't know.
Yeah,
There are a lot of like tiny things that, again, it's the little nitpickiness, but I think overall, and aesthetically, they knocked it
I
out of
was
the
gonna
park
bring that
again.
up. I took so many screenshots last night.
Very
Like,
pretty.
Vow of the Disciple was, it still might be my favorite aesthetically because like the worm god in the center, like that was a huge storytelling reveal. That was a huge worm. It just looks really cool. Like it's a cool image.
I mean, this
But
one you get the tree growing throughout the raid. Like you go there and you see like a little bulb, and then at the end it's fully grown.
Tree of
well,
Silver Wings.
yeah, so like I was gonna say the worm in Vow of the Disciple is an awesome screenshot moment, but like the rest of that raid kind of looks somewhat samey to me. And for this, like it might look samey with the flowers overgrowing the darkness pyramid, but I preferred that aesthetic so much more. Like the color was so much more vibrant in that case, I think.
And even the
It's like the
armor that you get
darkness.
from the raid.
Oh
Yes,
my god, yeah.
I've only got the arms, but I want the chest piece so bad.
Titan mark looks so cool
Yeah,
because it
hunting
like
women
it
for
Alec, you
clothes.
got to get the
fades.
helmet.
It fades from like 2 different colors. So I
Mhm.
got mine fading kind of from like a reddish orange to like a dark blue. It looks so cool.
You got to get the band leader helmet, Alec. Have you seen the
Okay,
helmet? The
I have
Titan
not.
helmet?
No, I have to look it up.
It has like a band leader plume thing. It's very cool.
Ooh,
Hopefully
okay,
they don't do
okay.
Scorpino.
Yeah, absolutely.
So is there anything that we missed? We've talked the story, we've talked
Seasonal content.
Yeah, so the seasonal content. How do we feel about the new Battlegrounds, the direction that it's going in terms of the Marisov? And I'm sorry, no, minor nitpick. So I get that Earth is valuable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like, the apocalypse has started, and we have the Avengers essentially chilling in the helm the entire campaign. Like, I waited to start the seasonal story until a little bit after I beat the campaign,
Same.
or as long as I could. I think at one point I had to like grind levels or something, and I think I did the first mission of the seasonal story. And I'm like, what are we doing all the way over here while it's happening? Like, Marsov is in some crazy ritual pose, and she's like about to do something crazy.
Yeah, it's like, does she get tired? Like, she's standing there going like this with an orb above her head. Like,
for
that's
weeks.
gotta like, you hold up your arms for like 20 minutes. That really hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, every time I go to see her at the farm, because you have to like check in and talk to her to
Mm-hmm.
progress the seasonal story. I'm just like, what are you doing here? Like, please help us. Like, you can sit down a pyramid by yourself. Please help us. But Alec, you're about to say something about the season, and then I interrupted you. I apologize.
Oh no, I was just bringing it up. Like, hey, we haven't talked about the season yet.
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's not much to say. Like, it's still
We are
still
only
good
like week
so
3.
far.
So
yeah.
That too.
I'm more interested in this than I was in the story of Nimbus and Rohan, unfortunately. But yeah, we didn't even talk about there's a lot to talk about Neomuna. But Billy,
I'll say, yeah, they have a lot of cool exotic quests with Lightfall. Like,
Yes.
they have the whole Witherbane,
Yeah.
I'm forgetting the name of the Void machine gun exotic, but that's a really cool mission.
Mm-hmm.
I keep calling it the.
Oh, that was like a nice like closure to the story, because
Yeah.
I remember a lot of people saying like, Rohan dies. I'm like, it doesn't seem like Nimbus really cares. But then you do that mission, and it's like, oh, like that's how they're processing their trauma. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like they're pretty torn up about it.
Yeah.
And then you help them try and deal with it, and you get a cool exotic.
I guess that mission for me is still bugged. So like, I haven't had that closure with Rohan and Nimbus yet.
It's
Like, I
bugged.
think so.
What do you mean it's bugged?
It's funny. So I got I got to the point where I did the whole platforming situation, and for those that don't know, I am so bad at platforming, especially in Destiny 2. So I went through that whole personal.
Got to take off Blink.
I did eventually. I did switch to the grapple and eater edge for the record. I did. But, whatever. Blink veins rise up. But I got to the point where you pick up the machine gun. I got it. Like, I have it, and then it's like, hey, you still haven't finished this mission to get the machine gun, and I'm like, I did though. And then I tried to go through it again. I'm like, I think someone was going through it, and I just joined up on them, tried to, finally finish it out just to clear it from my menu, and it didn't spawn whichever enemy I needed to kill. Like, it just didn't spawn someone.
You get the end.
Yeah, so I still haven't finished it. I'm sure I'll wait until like after reset or something to see if they add anything to help me move it along. But yeah, I feel like everything about Neomuna and the Cloud Striders and the Cloud Arc and all of that stuff is so cool on paper, and that's why the lore hits so hard. Like, the lore has been really, really good this expansion this season.
Like, I'll say seeing Nimbus on his like little like sword glider thing reminded me of what was it, Power Rangers in Space, where they have those galaxy gliders they're on.
Yeah, and there's just moments where, there's a moment where they fly in, stab through the wall, come down, and then like And I'm like, where has that been? Why are you not on the front line with us? Like, they're just, I don't know. I keep comparing it to Infinity War for reasons that at this point are on me. Like, I don't. The closest thing that Bungie has said to a Marvel comparison is that Savathun was their Loki. But at this point, I think that was just someone saying something. I think that was just like someone
So
talking.
when's she getting resurrected? Maybe next season?
Maybe.
Maybe the next season. Who knows?
Maybe next season. Who knows?
Season of the Deep. The Deep. Savathun. Maybe
Yeah.
next season.
What if they add the Deep from the boys to?
No.
That's what it is.
Just ask
Well,
himself.
What's the reference?
So just to close it out with final thoughts, what are your favorite new additions, and what is something that you want to see improved going forward? We'll start with. Yeah, go ahead.
I'll say one of my favorite things. I will say the loadouts, just because, like, even though we do have dim, like, just being able to quick just flip over and just swap everything is so cool. Just being able to, you're not to go anywhere outside of the game, just being able to do it in game is honestly something that we've been wanting for a long time. Let's see. As far as something, I don't know, what was the other one?
Just something that you want to see improved in the future.
Improved. Just, I don't know, like, just those nitpicks. Like, I don't know, it would kind of be like game. You'd really have to change the game, but just not making grapple take up one of your ability slots would be amazing. Because, like, that's like one of your main marketing points. And, like, for me, I think a lot of us here, like, we're not using grapple because our builds are centered around the different other grenades.
Yeah.
So, kind of like the main marketing push is, hey, you can grapple. I'm not using it.
Yeah, I feel like it would be as
make it part of the jump.
Big. Yeah, make it a special jump. Yeah. Wait, okay. I was about to try to give a little soft defense for them, but yeah, no, that is a solution. That is very much a solution. I'm down with that.
Yeah, I also think the grapple, it's like, it's fun to play with in the campaign, but it's something that you switch into for the jumping puzzle, and then when you get to the encounter, you switch back.
Yep.
I have seen some people pull some crazy stuff in PvP though. Like grapple in PvP, like it doesn't happen enough because I think its cooldown is. Initially, I was like, "Oh, this is horrible," and then I got the aspect where you could get grenade ability with by doing damage. Now I'm like, okay, this is more reasonable, especially in Crucible. I think the fun factor is there, but I also feel like it's hard to market like threadlings. Like I feel like it's to a non-Destiny player.
I was just gonna say, I've been saying this. Make a plushie of the threadlings.
Plush.
They got one of what was it, the Elixni worm, or Elixni baby.
Sets of 3 or sets of 5.
Kevin Jr.
Oh.
Yep.
So Billy, what are your your favorite thing about the expansion, and then what's something that you wish could be improved moving forward?
Favorite thing about the expansion, I think the loadout, but plus the mod revamp. I really like that. I really like the mod revamp because one of the things that would always grind my gears is you're doing a raid and then you get to the encounter and someone's like, all right, I got to change all my mods. And then you proceed to spend like 5 minutes just looking at your screen. I was like, okay, I'm ready. It's like, all right, good. And like cuts out a lot of that time. So great system. And I hope they continue to like improve upon and refine it and all that. As for something that I really want to see going forward is further improvements to the new player experience, because I like Destiny a lot and I want to indoctrinate all my friends. So make it easier for me to indoctrinate my friends.
Yeah, I feel like the indoctrinability, if that's not a word, I'm making it one, of the game should be increased tenfold. Add data mechanics.
New Light should not take, 2-3 hours?
Yeah, it's... I think about my first time playing Destiny and just like the the thing that got me into the game was like, oh, gunplay looks good, and also the gunplay had like the guns have lore that I assume is going to be good, and then the lore was good, the gameplay was good, the gunplay was good. Everything else they were just kind of like making it up as they went along. It felt. Um, like I remember some interview recently where one of the heads of Bungie said like, yeah, when it came to the Exo Stranger at the end of the campaign, we thought that was like the whole there's no time to explain why there's no time to explain. We thought that was like fine. Like we thought that was a fun way to end the campaign. We didn't know that y'all would want more. Like like in terms of actual answers to story. But like in hindsight, I'm like, why would you think that? Like why? But at the time, they're like more focused on the gameplay and all that stuff. In terms of something that I really, really, really enjoyed from the it's the same answer for both. It's like the quality of life improvements, like everything that they've done to streamline the veteran player experience. I welcome and I want more of it. Just go further with it. Like the lack of the LFG system. Like I was looking forward to that when they announced it. I missed that it wasn't going to be at the start of Lightfall. That I guess they're pushing it to later in the year, hopefully. Like I was bummed. Like the idea that I could just
It really helped last night.
would have helped last night.
Couldn't
Yeah,
couldn't get a sixth.
would have helped. Or just going into harder nightfalls, like going into like trials today. Like I don't need them to be like good players. I just need them to communicate and not be horrible people. Like, and I don't want to have to use my phone and blah 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 all that stuff. I feel like the expansion, like calling it filler, feels off because how it's been positioned, it's not. Like this is not filler in terms of the hype surrounding the Destiny story. And unfortunately, I feel like I, as a story fan, like especially after Witch Queen, I kind of lost not all my faith, but like I'm going into the final shape, like mentally preparing that if the story is not what I am expecting, like I need to stop spending so much time theorizing on what's going to happen. Like whatever happens, but I know that it's going to continue. Like the final shape will be a better Destiny experience than it is now. Like if that makes sense. Like I've never seen a year where Destiny has taken like a hard step back.
Right.
Yeah. In my opinion, like Bungie has proven with Destiny that they almost always swing for the fences. At least, like they always try and add cool new things. Like they added freezing powers to a game that did not have it before, and they added a grappling hook to a game that did not have it before.
Yeah.
Like, they really put their all into everything, and like sometimes it's awesome and sometimes it breaks, but I will always take them swinging for the fences and like trying to add cool new stuff than them trying to play it safe.
I mean, any negativity that I've put into this review is with the caveat of they have had my money since I was 14, and they will continue to have my money until they stop making stuff. Like I'm in. Like I'm very much in. It's just it's like a parent's not going to abandon their kid if they get a B on the test. But like obviously, I would have liked an A. I would have liked to see an A.
Yeah.
Room for improvement. Like very bright, very gifted. We just need a little extra effort in this specific category. And maybe that's just selfish of me. I don't know. I'm just a humble guardian. So are there any further closing thoughts? Anyone want to give a shout out to a special weapon? I guess random wrap up question. Favorite new weapon? It can be exotic, it can be legendary. It can be for the raid, it can be loot pool, like just random the public event rotating weapons.
It's unfortunate that I haven't gotten a Rufus to drop for me at all from the raid.
Yeah.
It will probably be that when I get it.
That Vex glaive is really cool.
I got it and I still haven't used it. I just forgot.
Okay. I have an answer. The exotic Freezy glaive. Very cool.
Oh, Winter Bite. Yeah.
You just shoot it and everything freezes. It's great.
Yeah.
It's very powerful and broken.
my favorite thing with that is also my answer, but shooting it at a boss or at like a mini boss, and as it slowly approaches, freezes them, and then you just go in and just start whacking them with it.
Yep.
Like, it's so disrespectful.
They legitimately had to just like, yeah, you can't use this
Yeah.
in like certain activities.
It's back now, right? I'm pretty sure it's back.
I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Let us know what your favorite new exotic, new legendary weapon.
What score are you giving it?
Oh no! Don't force it out of me. I'm giving it a 4 out of 5, knowing that is like going to age well over time. It's a bad score now. I think the IGN scores
So an 8 out of 10. Yeah.
8 out of 10. Like, I think the quality of life
Cool.
improvements have been substantial enough that as a Destiny player, like, it has been worth, like, the campaign. If anything, the campaign has given me a lot to complain about, which as a Destiny player, gotta eat it up. I feel like it sets the tone for if next expansion we get something on par with a grappling hook, on par with, and I'm sorry, we keep focusing on the grapple, the threadlings, the tangles. I really feel like they are introducing new ways to approach the game. The mods and loadouts. Now I'm thinking about if we're separating the quality of life with, because am I dropping it to a 3 in the moment? I was very strong. I woke up this morning saying it's a 4.
Well, what you wanted to like you think some things are separate from the campaign?
Like
Because
the
I think
quality of
it's.
life
I mean,
improvements.
they launched it all at the same time.
Yeah, but if I didn't buy Lightfall, I would still have access to loadouts, right? Like if I didn't
Yeah, I
buy
mean, you'd still have access to Neomuna, I think.
4 out of 5, and I'm going to stick with it, knowing
Yeah.
that seasonal content will carry that score. As it's like, it is a future 4.
It's the seasonal content is included in the $50.
Yes.
Yes, it is a future 4. I feel like it is still unfair to judge it right now because it is still fresh. Like the campaign is still fresh in my memory, still fresh in my anger. There are still the videos of like, we still don't really know what the veil is, like rotating in my TikTok. Trying to separate the real stinker that is a campaign. Like, had a great time with the raid. I'm loving the new weapons. Every time I discover something new about Strand, and by that I mean a YouTuber posts like, this Strand build is broken. It usually is. I have a great time. I'm loving the new mod system. I'm a Destiny player. If you make my experience better, which I feel like Lightfall did after I beat the campaign, yeah, like it's after you beat the campaign, it's a 4.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll stand by that. And
before we end the podcast, I'll just say RIP to Lance Reddick.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That is also still fresh. I'm at the point where like I will like forget that it happened, and then I'll see someone post something about it, and I'm like, oh, like the Eric Andre, his Eric Andre appearance has been doing the rounds. Like he's a very good, serious actor, and I feel like everyone knows that. I just love that he was like a silly person as well. Like he was a comedian. He was playing the night before he passed.
He made memes.
Like he made memes for it. Like he cared. He cared so much.
Oh yeah. Like in the statement his wife put out, like Destiny players were separately mentioned.
We were like a third of the.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
yeah. Like I put out a tweet like over the weekend just saying like I'm not normally one for like for celebrity deaths to hit me that hard, but man, this one hit me.
Yeah,
he was a homie.
So rest in peace to Lance Reddick. If you're a Destiny player, go to the tower, kneel in front. There's usually a sigil there going on, so make sure that you contribute to that. Let us know what you think. Am I crazy for giving Lightfall a 4? Like, be real in the comments. I know that there are a lot of hot takes.
Maybe.
Yeah, I know that there are a lot of hot takes. If I have contributed to the hot take pile, let me know. We'll see how it all plays out over time. Maybe next week the seasonal content takes a turn for the absolute worst, and then I have to turn in my badge and my gun to Austin Ernie. we'll make sure to like, subscribe, and again, please let us know what you think of Lightfall in the comments below. Make sure to check out. We've still got Mando going on. We just wrapped up The Last of Us. I think we'll have some more Star Warsy content coming out in the future, so stay tuned to that. Thank you so much, and thank you to our great guests, Alec and Billy. Any final words before we close out?
No, I'm said my piece.
All right. My eyes are still up. Looking forward to the future of Destiny.
Per Audacia, Audastra, I think that's how you pronounce it. See you, Starside Guardians.